Alexander the Great remains history's ultimate absolute conqueror, an unstoppable force of nature who forged a supreme global empire before reaching his 33rd year. He was a tactical mastermind born into pure chaos, spending his entire youth enduring brutal internal struggles, lethal court rivalries, and the constant threat of assassination. From a heavily scrutinized childhood to a young prince fighting for his right to rule, every single future achievement was paid for in pure blood and resilience. Once he completely overcame the deadly threats at home, this relentless leader manipulated tactical warfare to systematically wipe out the world's most powerful dynasties. Today we are tracking the raw, continuous journey of how an invisible spark of human ambition turned intense personal struggles into absolute history-altering triumphs. Our journey begins deep within the royal courts of ancient Macedonia during the early childhood of the prince. The volatile situation unfolded during the high-stakes reign of his fierce warrior, Father King Philip II. Thousands of elite citizens watched the young prince tame the wild stallion, Bucephalus, creating an absolute marvel of bravery. A sudden psychological confidence ripped through the royal court, proving his destiny for future leadership and extreme martial glory. The highly disciplined Macedonian tutors completely molded his young mind into absolute strategic brilliance within years. Even the legendary philosopher Aristotle was struck down by the immense potential of his royal student, guiding his entire intellectual effort. Modern researchers still debate whether his driving ambition was fueled by divine obsession or intense maternal pressure. The sudden mastery of his early education completely shattered the traditional limits of young princes forever. It remains an undying global symbol of how an invisible spark of genius can instantly prepare a supreme cultural superpower. This early brilliance was put to the ultimate test during the devastating regional onslaught at the Battle of Tyre. The volatile situation erupted when rebellious Greek city-states formed active military alliances in the south. The frontline soldiers unknowingly faced a highly lethal military weapon heading directly into the heart of Greece. The young prince led the elite companion cavalry like wildfire across the vast network of defensive lines reaching the furthest enemy borders. Victims suffered from terrifying tactical flanking maneuvers, painful spear thrusts, and violent bouts of panic. At its absolute peak, the horrific onslaught killed over thousands of allied Greek soldiers every single day inside the battlefield alone. The battle even claimed the independence of the proud city-states, completely shocking the Athenian political administration. The massive loss of life completely decimated the ranks of the elite sacred band of Thebes on the borders. The entire region's resistance slumped as independent cities went completely to their knees due to a missing defensive strategy. Following this military triumph, the kingdom was plunged into chaos by the devastating assassination of King Philip. The terrifying political crisis tore across the entire Macedonian kingdom, breaking the structural stability of the throne. The mysterious murder caused severe paranoia, continuous purges, and horrific execution of potential rival claimants. The resulting demographic alignment deeply strengthened Alexander's ability to resist continuous barbarian invasion raids. It directly accelerated the chaotic historical era known as the hegemony of Greece, threatening total Balkan dominance. This legendary political assault proved that a relentless leader can build the institutional foundations of a global empire. With Greece secured, the ambitious young king launched the breathtaking Asian campaign by crossing the Hellespont. The native Persian populations were already suffering under the heavy psychological weight of internal imperial corruption. Suddenly, a highly lethal and completely unfamiliar army swept through the coastal villages with absolute fury. The ambitious king caused high motivation, severe strategic positioning, and intense marching from Europe into Asia Minor. Persian satraps died within a few short days of showing the first resistance, turning provinces into massive conquered communities. Historical estimates suggest that up to 80% of the regional Persian defensive lines were completely wiped out. The sheer speed of the slaughter left satraps completely unable to organize their troops before losing the territories themselves. Recent historical analysis suggests the ancient military killer relied heavily on the aggressive use of the long sarissa pike. This historic demographic catastrophe completely altered the cultural and political map of the Near East forever. The invasion force then marched upon the vast maritime trade channels of the Levant for the brutal siege of Tyre. The ambitious King Alexander was right on the verge of completely neutralizing the old Persian naval fleets. Suddenly, a devastating island fortress presenting heavily fortified walls brought a hidden military challenge into his campaign. The Tyrians carried thousands of defensive missiles nested inside the towers of their island trading hub. The resulting military outbreak caused massive, painful casualties to form on Alexander's frontline builders and engineers. The conflict killed over 10,000 people daily in the coastal waters, completely reordering the region's social reality. They had to build a massive stone causeway through layers of deep ocean because standard naval assaults were completely useless. The king himself contracted massive frustration during the terrifying siege, but managed to narrowly survive the military onslaught. The permanent loss of millions of trade coins completely bankrupted the Tyrian treasury and halted all Persian naval expansion plans. We have reached the turning point of this gripping chronicle of history's absolute grandest military achievements. Before we reveal the final half of the journey, please like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. Hitting that big subscribe button helps us bring you more high-quality history videos every single day. Leave a comment right below about which historic event has shocked you the most so far in our narrative. Now let us jump straight back into the heart of this unbelievable and historic global conquest. The campaign soon culminated in the highly destructive military onslaught universally known as the Battle of Gaugamela. The terrifying global confrontation traveled along the highly active royal roads managed by the Persian Empire. In 331 BC, a fleet of chariot divisions docked in the plains with dead horses slumped over the fields. The insidious tactical genius of Alexander spread through the crowded, disorganized lines of King Darius III instantly. Victims suffered from high panic, violent routing of troops, and the distinct collapsing of the Royal Persian Center. Within 5 short hours, the military terror systematically shattered over half of the entire imperial Persian army. The sheer scale of the demographic collapse completely shattered the ancient foundations of Persian feudalism and labor. Surviving satraps realized their empire was now incredibly vulnerable and loudly demanded higher protection and total freedom from Darius. It remains historically recognized as the most fatal and transformative battle recorded in the entire history of the world. Following the fall of Persia, the king sought the magnificent and terrifying global impact of the Egyptian coronation. The highly ambitious son of Ammon has been one of the most persistent and lethal conquerors of human history for millennia. He caused millions of local citizens to bow down across the ancient Nile River's entire physical landframe. The conqueror maintained an incredibly high political authority, systematically blinding and scarring those who managed to rebel. When Macedonian explorers arrived in the Nile Delta, they carried this invisible authority directly into vulnerable populations. The native populations possessed absolutely zero natural desire to fight against the foreign military agent. The resulting wave of cultural integration completely annihilated entire old traditions, including the pharaohs and the priests. It acted as an invisible frontline vanguard force that cleared the landscape for total Alexandrian conquest and colonization. The sheer global cultural toll across successive centuries makes it one of the absolute most destructive legacies to ever exist. The unstoppable army then pushed to the ancient borders with the relentless global devastation of the Indian campaign. The highly lethal war machine first emerged from its ancient conquered home into the Indus River Delta. as Macedonian phalanxes and global supply networks expanded. The deadly army traveled rapidly across international borders. The conqueror attacked the local Indian kingdoms, causing massive immediate territory loss and severe tactical dehydration. Victims would transform from completely independent rulers to defeated kings within a matter of a few short hours. 6 successive regional waves of the campaign killed millions of warriors across the Punjab and the border continents. The terrifying speed of the elephants forced Greeks to completely re-engineer their tactical formations and battlefield systems. It proved with absolute finality that Eastern globalization requires sophisticated military defenses to survive. The cost of this endless expansion became clear during the bizarre and highly lethal homebound trek known as the Gedrosian Desert March. The catastrophic situation unfolded amidst the massive structural chaos of his mutinous army and long travel logistics. Millions of displaced camp followers and soldiers were forced to live in freezing nights and burning days across unsanitary dunes. The highly contagious heat exhaustion was transmitted directly to human hosts through the bites of common lack of water. The climate caused raging delirium, intense body weakness, and sudden complete failure of the circulatory system. Over 12,000 citizens were systematically killed by the tiny heat waves during the multi-year social collapse. The famous military leader Alexander loudly warned that if discipline did not defeat the desert would defeat discipline. The trek paralyzed entire military front lines, proving that environmental displacement can turn a basic desert into a weapon of mass destruction. Finally, the journey brought the conqueror to the global upheavals of the ancient Babylonian palace. The devastating and unparalleled historical onslaught of the sudden death of Alexander shocked the ancient world. The highly virulent mystery fever emerged globally during the final chaotic months of his grand imperial planning. The massive movement of mourning soldiers and crowded palace quarters acted as a perfect global superspreader network. Unlike standard seasonal illnesses, this unique strain was exceptionally lethal to a healthy young conqueror in his early 30s. It triggered an immediate massive physical failure that completely filled the leader's body with agonizing weakness. He would wake up perfectly healthy in the morning and suffocate to death on his own fever by nightfall. The collapse infected over 1/3 of the entire imperial administration, killing up to his entire United Empire in months. In parts of Babylon, the devastation was so absolute that entire royal chambers were lined with warring generals. Its absolute political lethality completely outpaced the total casualties of the entire Persian War within a single year. The sudden fall of this legendary conqueror instantly fractured the largest empire the ancient world had ever seen. If you want to witness more epic breakdowns of history's greatest empires, please like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss your daily history fix. See you tomorrow as we upload high-quality history videos every single day without fail.